When emotional neglect enters a marriage, it doesn't arrive loudly or dramatically. It slips in quietly, through unanswered texts, distracted conversations, missed eye contact, and moments when you needed warmth but received silence instead. And if you're listening to this right now feeling unseen, unheard, or emotionally alone while still married, let me say this gently and clearly. You are not weak, you are not demanding too much, and you are not imagining your pain, because emotional neglect is real and it hurts deeply, especially for women who give love freely, who show up emotionally every day, and who quietly carry the weight of a relationship that feels one-sided. And maybe your story looks like this. You wake up next to him but feel miles away. You share your day and he nods without really listening. You stop bringing up your feelings because it feels easier to stay quiet than to feel dismissed. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin shrinking yourself, lowering your needs, convincing yourself that love means endurance. But here's the truth most women are never told. Emotional neglect doesn't just affect your marriage. It affects your sense of self, your confidence, your joy, and your emotional safety. And healing does not begin by fixing him first. Healing begins by reconnecting with yourself, because emotional neglect teaches women to abandon themselves to keep the peace. And today, we are gently reversing that pattern step by step, breath by breath, without anger, without blame, and without losing your dignity. Because healing is not about confrontation alone, it is about clarity. The first step in healing after emotional neglect is naming your experience honestly, not minimizing it, not justifying it, and not comparing it to others. Emotional neglect means your emotional needs are consistently unmet, and acknowledging that truth does not make you ungrateful, it makes you aware, and awareness is power. When you stop saying, "It's not that bad," and start saying, "This is hurting me," something inside you begins to heal, because your feelings finally have permission to exist. The second step is rebuilding emotional safety within yourself, because neglect often leaves women anxious, hyper-aware, and constantly seeking reassurance. And healing means learning how to self-soothe, how to validate your own emotions, how to pause before chasing connection from someone who is emotionally unavailable in that moment. This is not about emotional withdrawal or punishment. It is about emotional boundaries, choosing not to over-explain, not to beg for attention, not to exhaust yourself trying to be chosen. Emotional safety grows when you realize that your worth is not dependent on his responsiveness. The third step is learning to communicate from strength instead of desperation, because emotional neglect often pushes women to either stay silent or explode. But healing communication is calm, clear, and grounded. It sounds like, "I need emotional presence to feel connected in this marriage," not "you never care about me." It sounds like, "I feel lonely when we don't talk," not "you're always distant." This kind of communication does not guarantee immediate change, but it protects your self-respect, and that matters deeply. The fourth step is grieving what you didn't receive, and this step is often skipped, but it is essential. You may need to grieve the emotional intimacy you hoped for, the partner you imagined, the version of marriage that felt safe and nurturing. And grief does not mean giving up. It means honoring your pain instead of suppressing it, because unprocessed grief turns into resentment, exhaustion, and emotional numbness, and you deserve more than survival mode. The fifth step is reconnecting with joy outside the marriage, because emotional neglect can make your world very small. Healing expands it again through friendships, creativity, faith, movement, laughter, purpose, and moments that remind you that you are alive, whole, and capable of happiness. This is not selfish. This is restorative because a woman who remembers herself is a woman who heals faster. And now here is the most important part. Healing does not mean tolerating neglect. Forever healing gives you clarity, strength, and emotional stability, so you can make empowered decisions, whether that means rebuilding connection, together setting firmer boundaries, seeking counseling, or redefining what emotional partnership looks like for you. You are allowed to expect emotional presence in marriage. You are allowed to want tenderness, care, and effort, and you are allowed to heal even if he has not yet changed, because your healing is not dependent on his readiness. And if no one has told you this before, let me tell you now, emotional neglect does not define your worth. It does not erase your value, and it does not mean you are unlovable. It simply means you have been loving deeply in a space that did not fully meet you, and that takes courage, strength, and resilience. As you heal, you may notice yourself becoming calmer, less reactive, more grounded, and that is not because you stopped caring. It is because you started caring for yourself. And from this place, whether your marriage heals, transforms, or requires difficult decisions, you will face it with clarity instead of fear, with dignity instead of desperation, and with self-respect instead of self-abandonment. And if this message resonates with you, know that you are not alone. Your pain is valid, your healing is possible, and your emotional needs matter. Always. And if this helped you feel seen even for a moment, take that as a sign that healing has already begun. And I invite you to share this with another woman who may be silently hurting. Leave a comment to let me know you're here. And subscribe for more guidance on emotional strength, healing, and healthy love, because you deserve a marriage where your heart feels safe, valued, and deeply respected.